Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening sa'yo, depending on the time that you are listening to this video. Classification and kinds of actions and payment of docket fees. Yan ang pag-uusapan natin sa video na ito. This is my bar review guide and I am Attorney Rosario Olivas. Welcome to Easy Law Online. Today is July 11, 2025. Okay, so unahin natin yung classification of actions in civil procedure. May mga apat na classifications ito: ordinary civil actions, special civil actions, criminal actions, and special proceedings. So unahin natin ang ordinary civil action. Ang purpose ng ordinary civil action is to enforce or protect a right or prevent or redress a wrong. So tatandaan ninyo kapag pinag-uusapan natin ang ordinary civil actions, pinag-uusapan natin ang concepts of right and wrong. The plaintiff has a right that he wants to protect or he wants to seek redress for kasi violate ng defendant yung right na yon, resulting in injury to the plaintiff. Ordinary civil actions are governed by the rules of court, specifically Rules 1 to 39. And how do you initiate an ordinary civil action? You initiate this by filing a complaint. Ang parties sa ordinary civil action are the plaintiff and defendant. So gusto kong i-emphasize, huwag kayong mako-confuse. Hindi petition ang initiatory pleading sa ordinary civil actions. Ang initiatory pleading ay complaint. Ang petition ay ginagamit sa special proceedings at minsan sa special civil actions. Pagdating naman sa parties, remember, plaintiff and defendant, don't be confused. Very technical ang mga words na ginagamit natin sa remedial law. So the plaintiff is the one who files the complaint. The defendant is the one defending himself against the claim of the plaintiff. Hindi petitioner, hindi respondent. All right? Now, relief sought. Ano ang sinisik ng plaintiff sa ordinary civil action? Damages, specific performance, and enforcement of obligations. Ito yung mga halimbawa, no? So example, ano yung mga kaso na ordinary civil action? We have breach of contract in which the relief sought would be damages, and meron ding example na collection of sum of money. Now, punta tayo sa special civil actions. Ang special civil actions, these are governed by specific rules in addition to ordinary rules of civil procedure. So, unang-una, hahanapin ninyo yung specific rules. Kung walang applicable na specific rules, then you will apply the rules on ordinary civil actions. So, makikita ninyo ang special civil actions from Rule 62 to Rule 71 of the Rules of Court. So, mag-uumpisa yan sa interpleader at mag-e-end sa contempt of court. Ang nature ng special civil action is to address specific legal remedies. So ang procedure, it follows specific procedures in the rules for special civil action. So dun mismo sa category ng special civil action. And katulad ng nasabi ko kanina, kung walang rule na mag-a-apply under the rules on special civil actions, then you apply the rules on ordinary civil actions. Halimbawa, yung certification of non-forum shopping. Hindi naman yan nakalagay sa rules on special civil actions, pero mag-a-apply yan under the rules on ordinary civil actions. Now, ano yung mga special civil actions under the rules of court? Madami. So meron tayong interpleader, declaratory relief, and other similar remedies. Review of final judgments and orders of the Commission and on Election and COA. So tatandaan ninyo, yung review of final judgments and orders are limited only to the two constitutional bodies, the COMELEC and the COA. Yung Civil Service Commission, hindi yan subject to review. Yung decisions nila, hindi yan subject to review under special civil actions, or I'm really referring to Rule 64. Okay? So, the decisions of the Civil Service Commission, even if it's a constitutional body, will be subject to review by the Court of Appeals. Okay, under Rule 43, Petition for Review. So tatandaan ninyo sa special civil action, ang covered lang dito are the COMELEC and COA under Rule 64. And then we have certiorari, prohibition, and mandamus. We have quo warranto, expropriation, foreclosure of real estate mortgage, partition, forcible entry, unlawful detainer, and contempt. Sa ordinary civil actions, palaging tatandaan ninyo na may elements of a cause of action. You have ROV, right of the plaintiff, obligation of the defendant to respect that right, and the third one is a violation by the defendant of the plaintiff's right resulting in damage or injury to the plaintiff. Ganon din sa special civil actions. Kaya ang ginagamit nito na salita ay actions. Okay? Special civil actions, ordinary civil actions. Pag narinig niyo yung salitang action, we are really referring to a right and an obligation and a resulting injury. So, criminal action naman, ganun din. Okay? Now, the purpose is to prosecute a person for an act or omission punishable by law. So, there is a right to be protected, an obligation by the accused to respect that right, kaya lang violate niya, resulting in injury or damage. Okay? Ang violation is either the revised penal code, which makes it a crime, or a violation under a special penal law, which we call offense. So yun ang pagkakaiba ng crime at saka ng offense. So sino ang parties sa criminal action? The state represented by the prosecutor, yan yung plaintiff, and then we have the accused. Remember, sa ordinary civil action, ang parties are plaintiff and defendant. Sa special civil action, pwedeng plaintiff and defendant or pwede ring petitioner and respondent. Okay? Sa criminal action naman, the state versus the accused. So, ang governing rules ng criminal actions, ito yung rules on criminal procedure under Rule 110 to Rule 127 and substantive criminal laws like the revised penal code. Pag criminal action ang pinag-uusapan, we are not talking about preliminary investigation. Kasi yung preliminary investigation is conducted by the investigating prosecutor under the Department of Justice. Wala pa sa court yung case. Pag sinabi natin criminal action, nasa court na yung case, tatandaan ninyo yun. Kaya sa preliminary investigation, iba yung parties. The parties are the private complainant versus the respondent. Wala pang akusado sa preliminary investigation. Again, private complainant versus respondent. Pero oras na ma-file yung information sa court, nagkakaroon na ng ibang complexion yung case. The parties now become the state versus the accused. And the burden of proof is proof beyond reasonable doubt in criminal actions. In a preliminary investigation, the burden of proof is prima facie evidence with reasonable certainty of conviction. Okay? So ang outcome naman, ang expected outcome sa criminal action ay dadalawa, either a conviction or an acquittal. And the penalties in case of conviction include imprisonment, fine, or both. Maaari ding magkaroon ng civil liability despite an acquittal if there is no proof beyond reasonable doubt that the accused was not the one who committed the crime, or no proof beyond reasonable doubt that there was no crime committed. Dako naman tayo sa special proceeding. Ito iba ha. Note na ang ginagamit na salita ay proceedings, hindi action. The reason for that is it is not an action, it is a proceeding. Anong ibig sabihin? There is no cause of action. That's why it is not an action. Tandaan natin. Anong sinabi ko kanina? Pag sinabing cause of action, may tatlong elements. ROV, the right of the plaintiff, the obligation of the defendant to respect that right, and the violation committed by the defendant uh, resulting in injury or damage to the plaintiff. Sa special proceeding, walang cause of action. So makikita mo ang purpose nito. It is to establish a status, a right, or a particular fact. It is not adversarial in the traditional sense. Walang nag-aaway. Although it may become so kasi maaring may mag-oppose dun sa petition and then it may become adversarial, but it is not intended to be an adversarial proceeding. So, ang governing rules nito are Rules 72 to 109 of the Rules of Court. Nature, it usually involves an application or a petition to the court for a specific judicial action. Dito ginagamit yung petition. Ang nagfa-file ng case, ng proceeding, is the petitioner. And the initiatory pleading is a petition and not a complaint. Kasi nga, hindi naman nagko-complain yung petitioner against anybody. So for example, we have settlement of estate of deceased persons or guardianship, adoption, habeas corpus, change of name, or declaration of absence. Kaya lang, I have to point out that adoption has, although it is enumerated in the rules on special proceedings, hindi na siya court case ngayon. Adoption is now an administrative proceeding, so technically, it is no longer an action that is filed in court. Okay? Now, and then we have, again, habeas corpus, change of name, declaration of absence. So tapos na tayo dun sa classification of actions. Again, ano yung classification of actions? We have ordinary civil actions, we have special civil actions, we have criminal actions, and we have special proceedings. Okay, dun naman tayo sa kinds of actions. Personal versus real actions, that's the first category of actions pag pinag-usapan natin yung kinds of actions. And then we also have actions in rem, in personam, and quasi in rem. Okay, so pag-usapan natin yung real and personal actions. Huwag kayong mako-confuse sa real action at saka sa action in rem. Okay? Huwag kayong mako-confuse sa personal action at saka sa action in personam. Pag sinabi natin ang classification or kinds of action na personal versus real, what we are talking about here are the parties and the subject matter of the action. So, real action. So, importante to, okay? Una, yung subject matter of the action. Pangalawa, saan ifa-file yung case, meaning venue. Okay? So, real action. It affects Title 2, or possession of real property or an interest therein. The action is founded upon the privity of real property. Keywords dito, Title 2, possession of real property or an interest therein. So ang aking memory aid dito is TIP, title, interest, or possession of real property. Kapag ang kaso there is real property, but the issue is not title, possession, or interest, it is not a real action. Tatandaan niyo yan. So dapat, para maging real action, the issue must affect title 2 or possession of real property or interest therein. For example, sino ang may-ari ng property or sino ang entitled to possess real property. Okay? So, kailan magkakaroon ng real action? For example, unlawful detainer. Unlawful detainer is a real action because the question there is the right to possess real property. Pero halimbawa ng action na may real property pero hindi siya real action. Okay. So for example, the plaintiff brings an action against the defendant because the defendant violated a contract. And that contract is about the real property. So ang agreement nila is there is a contract to sell, and after the plaintiff completes full payment, the defendant should issue a deed of absolute sale. Kaya lang, ayaw mag-issue ng defendant ng deed of absolute sale. So ang action is really for the enforcement of the duty of the defendant to issue the proper document, the deed of absolute sale. So hindi pinag-uusapan dito ang Title II, possession of real property or interest therein. Ang pinag-uusapan is the execution of the proper contract. So that is not a real action. That is a personal action. Okay? So I hope that's a good example. Those are good examples that will make you remember kailan ba real action at kailan ba hindi real action. Or in other words, kailan siya magiging personal action. Now, the venue of a real action is determined by the location of the property. Okay, so you have to find out nasaan yung property at dun yung ifa-file sa court which has territorial jurisdiction over that property, even if the parties reside outside that particular location. So if the property is located in Taguig, Metro Manila, then the venue of the real action is in Taguig, Metro Manila. Ano yung mga example ng real action? We have quieting of title, foreclosure of mortgage on real property, or recovery of possession of land. Now, punta naman tayo sa personal action. Ito yung action that is not founded upon the privity of real property, or what it does is to seek to recover personal property or to enforce a contract or to recover damages. So ang venue ng personal action is the residence of the plaintiff or residence of the defendant at the choice of the plaintiff. So examples of personal action: collection of sum of money, breach of contract, specific performance of an obligation to do. Okay? So ayan, pinag-usapan natin kinds of actions. Letter A, personal versus real actions. Punta naman tayo dito sa actions in rem, in personam, and quasi in rem. So note, ang pagkakaiba ng tatlong actions na to is the binding effect of the decision. Hindi yung katulad nung sa real versus personal, whether the issue is title to, interest in, or possession of real property, which would make it a real action. Pero dito, sa actions in rem, in personam, and quasi in rem, it is the binding effect of the decision. So an action in personam is directed against persons and seeks to impose a personal liability or obligation upon them. So yung tao mismo na involved sa court case, the decision is binding upon whoever the court adjudges to be liable. Well, the decision is binding upon both parties actually. Okay? Pero yung liability is directed upon the person whom the court decides to be liable based on the evidence that is presented. So action in persona, binding upon specific persons to impose a personal liability or obligation. Now, yung jurisdiction over the person, meaning proper service of summons upon the defendant. So, actions in personam require jurisdiction over the person of the defendant through proper service of summons. Okay? So, iyan ang pagkakaiba sa actions in rem and quasi in rem na pag-uusapan natin in a few seconds. So, what is the effect of a judgment in actions in personam? It binds only the parties to the action and their successors in interest. So, ayan sinasabi ko. Pag action in personam, ang pinag-uusapan dyan, the binding effect. And that is on the persons involved in the action itself. Examples of actions in personam: actions for sum of money, specific performance, or breach of contract. Now, doon naman tayo sa action in rem. Ito, binding effect. The action in rem is directed against the thing or the property itself, and the judgment binds the whole world. Okay? So ang binding effect nito is the whole world, not just the parties to the action. And then the action is directed to the thing, to the rest. Okay? So item 31, jurisdiction over the rest. This requires jurisdiction of the court over the rest or the thing. Ano ba yung rest na yon? Examples of rest are the real property subject of the action or the civil status of the plaintiff in a legal separation case. Okay? So I have a separate review guide about the concept of rest in in-rem cases. Make sure that you are able to watch that video. And I will also put a link to that video in the description box below. So, as to service of summons by publication is sufficient along with service to the last known address of interested individuals. So palagi, kapag may publication, palaging may service by registered mail to the last known address of the party concerned. Now, this kind of service, summons by publication, is made to satisfy the requirements of procedural due process, not so that the court can acquire jurisdiction over their persons. The reason is the court already has jurisdiction over the thing or the rest. Due process is satisfied because interested individuals are given the opportunity to be heard by filing their comments or opposition to the petition. So again, importante dito, yung opportunity to be heard. Maaaring hindi talaga mag-file ng opposition yung interested parties, but they had an opportunity to be heard. So, what is the effect of service by publication? It is conclusive against all persons, whether or not they were parties to the action. Kaya the decision is binding upon the whole world. So examples of action in rem, we have land registration proceedings, probate of a will, escheat proceedings. Now, dako naman tayo sa actions quasi in rem. Okay? So, this is an action directed against a particular person, but it involves an interest in a specific property. The judgment is binding only on the parties, although it concerns property. Okay? Now, jurisdiction in quasi-in rem actions. These require jurisdiction over the rest or the property plus notice to the defendant. So, paano sinaservan ng notice yung defendant? Service of summons in quasi-in rem actions. Service can be service in person, pwede ring substituted service of summons, pwede ring by publication if the defendant is a non-resident. And like I said, if it is by publication, there must be service by registered mail to the last known address of the party concerned. Now, 38, binding effect. Kung ang action in personam, ang binding effect will be upon the persons involved in the case. Kung ang action in rem, ang binding effect is the whole world, sa quasi in rem, the decision binds only the parties and those claiming through them, and the enforcement is limited to the property subject of the case. So example, action for partition that is binding upon the parties and it is enforced on the property, the real property that is subject to partition. Foreclosure of mortgage, where deficiency of judgment is not sought against the mortgagor personally, and attachment proceedings also. So if a deficiency judgment is sought against the mortgagor personally, kasi wala na siyang, hindi siya na-cover ng mortgage property, now that will be an action in personam. And the judgment will be enforced or executed against the properties of the person who is subject to the deficiency judgment under the Rules on Execution, Rule 39. Okay, so yon, pinag-usapan natin ang actions in personam, actions in rem, and actions quasi in rem. And our next topic here is payment of docket fees. Requirement ito sa lahat ng civil actions, whether ordinary and special, or pati sa special proceedings. required ito upon the filing of the complaint or petition. How about criminal actions? Generally, walang docket fees unless civil liability is also sought. Okay? So, item 41, payment of filing fee is jurisdictional. The court acquires jurisdiction over the case only upon full payment of the prescribed docket fees. So, if the docket fees are not paid in full, the court will not acquire jurisdiction and the court may dismiss the case. But there are exceptions. Okay, if you look at item 43, indigent litigants may be exempt from payment of docket fees. They will have to apply with the executive judge for that, and the executive judge will have to approve it subject to certain conditions, one of which is in item 44. The unpaid docket fees will constitute a lien on the judgment, and the court shall have the first lien on the award for costs and fees. And item 45, the importance of docket fees. They fund the judiciary and ensure the orderly administration of justice. So, dear law student and law graduate, I pray for your success in your studies and in the bar exams. That's the end of our video on 45 things to remember about classification and kinds of actions and payment of docket fees. Ginawa ko ang video na ito exclusively for the paying members of my channel, Easy Law Online. Tell your friends and classmates about this para meron din silang access dito sa special bar review guides on remedial law. I will be seeing you next time. Meanwhile, do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with God. This is from Micah chapter 6, verse 8. Ako si Attorney Chato Olivas of Easy Law Online, making the law easier to understand. God bless you.